it really does have to come down to the outcomes in order for it to stick around.
I'm Stephanie Paterick, editor-in-chief of The Current, and here in the studio today we have a very exciting guest. Jenna Griffith is VP of Ad Ops at PayPal. Super interesting brand to be at right now. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Stephanie. Excited to be here.
You have been steeped in data and programmatic for a lot of your career.
Yes.
You came from media math before PayPal. How do you see the evolution of programmatic? Where are we at right now?
I think we're at a really interesting moment for programmatic. I actually think the lines between programmatic and not programmatic are going to continue to get very blurry, particularly as AI comes into larger scale in the market. But yes, I feel like I grew up in programmatic. I think the opportunities that programmatic brought to the market was almost a little bit of being able to release some control and say, you know, I have some very clear boundaries that I want to put in place, but as an advertiser, I would prefer to focus on the outcomes and what experience am I actually driving for the consumer within a set of boundaries. And I think how I hear people and how people are starting to utilize AI in marketing and advertising is very similar. You know, you can't exert so much control because you'll eliminate the benefits that it can bring.
And it's harder to scale.
And it's harder to scale. A lot of the benefits and the mindset that needed to approach programmatic are very similar to the take that we need to take as we move into AI.
Something I've noticed is that, you know, maybe, 5-10 years ago, it was seen as this side function. And now we're starting to see a generation of advertising leaders who, like you, grew up in programmatic and are moving into higher levels of decision making. Is that changing the media mix and the way that people are planning their media budgets?
You know, really, when you think what is programmatic, it's an automation, it's technology brought to the media that people consume that should unlock opportunities that are not there if the technology is not there. I think back to when I joined MediaMath in 2007. Google was just buying DoubleClick, Microsoft Ad ECN, Yahoo Right Media, and it was like, wow, we have all of this inventory, and it necessitated technology in order to be able to make it work for good for the consumer, for good for the merchants. I think it is a mix, yes, of people who like to talk about ad tech and programmatic and talk about it together, and but also that it has worked. I don't think just because it's fun to talk about and the people grew up in it that now here we are. I think it really does have to come down to the outcomes in order for it to stick around.
So your ad business is relatively new. How is it going and what are you learning?
You know, advertisers are really excited about the transaction graph that we are bringing to market. Transaction graph itself is really a capture of transactions that people, the shopping moments that people are creating, but also the insights that we can derive from that. So it's not just a look back and saying, what did people buy, but being able to craft that into very actionable insights and then being able to use that graph to go develop strategies and drive growth.
To what extent is PayPal similar or different to other retail media networks?
With PayPal, we're unique because we are sitting across 30 million merchants, so we don't just have that single view of one particular merchant or retailer, but we are able to bring this full transaction graph idea across merchants.
So Jenna, final question for you. When you think about the future of retail media and commerce, what innovation do you see coming down the pike that gets you most excited?
I will say I am most excited about the creative side of it, quite honestly. I think it's exciting for us to create much more seamless experiences for our consumers. To us, that means being able to bring the shoppability directly into the ad that somebody is interacting with, and that brings a tremendous amount of convenience and value. And yes, the personalization that can be unlocked with being able to, leverage this transaction graph and really drive that personalized experience. So I think those two pieces, and bringing it, kind of going beyond the targeting and really into the actual consumer experience.
Yeah, shortening that consumer journey
too. Yes,
shortening
exactly.
and personalizing it.
Exactly.
Jenna, I really appreciate you coming into the studio and sharing these insights. You have such a unique perspective,
Thank
and
you.
I hope you come back.